everyone, and welcome to the She Shoots podcast, Women Empowering Women in the Shooting Community, Season 3, Episode 31, all about the optics, covering the theme of careers. My name is Regina Ruiz Ordóñez, and I'm from the Canadian University Shooting Federation. And joining me today, as always, are Deneen Tomlin and Casey Gavinchuk from Lady Guns, and Kelly Melanson from IPSC Project, Sci-Fi Radio, and CCFR Women's Program. I would like to start by thanking our sponsors, Cabela's Canada Outdoor Fund, positively shaping the future of the outdoors. Every cent donated by rounding up at checkout goes towards helping Canadian organizations just like ours. Savage Arms, home to the Stevens single-shot rifles and shotguns, Beretta, family-owned and operated since 1526. Vortex, the best in optics, and Canada First Ammo. If you have any questions or comments throughout the show, make sure to leave them in the chat box below. Doing so will automatically enter you in the draw for today's giveaways. Today we have a She Shoots t-shirt and a Canada First Ammo prize pack. That's it for me. That's on to Kelly and Deneen.
All right.
Thank you very much, Regina, and welcome everybody to tonight's show. I have the pleasure to do some introductions of our guests tonight, and then we will move over to the fun part, which is the questions and getting to learn a lot about you guys and your company. So I have the pleasure of introducing Vanja and Carlee. So Vanja, I'm going to do my best. Last name, Krtolica. Is that correct?
Close.
You're in the ballpark.
Okay, well, we'll get you to correct me later. The president and CEO, co-founder of Apex Optics. Vanja is a seasoned hunter and competitive shooter, excelling in disciplines such as Steel Challenge, IPSC, USPSA, 3-gun, NRL Hunter, and Precision Rifle Series. He's even claimed victories in shotgun turkey shoots. Before co-founding Apex Optics, Vanja lent his expertise as a program manager specializing in cybersecurity and large infrastructure projects across Canada and the US. His blend of corporate experience, passion for the outdoors, and love for hunting in Western Canada provided Apex Optics with a unique advantage when developing its first products. While today, Vanja continues to compete in shooting sports whenever possible, his primary focus is on optical design and new product development. His vast experience in hunting and shooting sports drives the innovation behind Apex Optics' cutting-edge products. And of course, Carlee, Vice President and COO and co-founder of Apex Optics. Carlee's we did that already, where she combines her diverse expertise in corporate management, consulting, and competitive sports to lead the company's operations and strategic initiatives. Before co-founding Apex Optics, Carlee built a robust career in the energy sector, specializing in fixed asset and production accounting. Her experience in marketing and recruiting have also been crucial in shaping the brand's success. In addition to her corporate experience, Carlee served as a business consultant advising companies on growth strategies and marketing efficiencies. She's also a published author with her best-selling book, Making a Significant Impact in Her Field. Wow, what a huge amount of expertise to bring into building a company. I'm really excited to talk to you guys tonight about Apex. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Kelly, I bet you've got some questions just burning a hole in your head. I can't hear Kelly. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
All
Kelly's
right.
a little frozen there. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
She got a little frozen. Are you with us now, Kelly?
Oh, hi there.
We are?
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Yes. Oh, there we are. Okay, now you can hear me. Yeah, all I saw was spinning wheels and, the black screen of death for just a second. So welcome to both of you. We're super excited to have you on the show tonight. One of the reasons that we wanted to bring you on is, one, you're a couple, and we can show that people can work together that are couples, because we've actually had one of your sponsored, not one, but a couple of your sponsored shooters on recently, Melody and
Taylor.
Yeah.
Another couple,
So we just recently had them on, and then it sparked our ideas. Why don't we we think it's a
I
great
appreciate
idea to bring you on. Not only that, I've watched your careers and seen how your company was founded and grown, and we wanted to talk to you about it. We really appreciate the fact that you are here in Canada and you're an optics company that's actually supporting Canadian shooters, and all that you've done for the shooting community as well, and how you've reached into the international market. So we're really excited to have you on tonight. And as Deneen said, you have so much expertise, and we can see how well your company is doing and how fast it is growing based on that expertise as well. So welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you.
So why don't we rewind all the way back to the beginning of the company and the beginning of the shooting, the interest in shooting. So tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got this going as a company and your interest in shooting, and tie them all together.
About 4 years now. I would say this is approximately the 4-year anniversary for the company, which is pretty exciting and kind of crazy, to be honest with you. It has grown faster and larger than we really anticipated at this point. We thought this would be something maybe we would do kind of just test the waters for the first 3 to 5 years and see how we go. And we're in that 3 to 5 year mark, and definitely way further, I'll call it, down the rabbit hole than we thought we would be. But it was really in 2020, Vanja started shooting precision rifle series.
Well, we can rewind.
We can rewind a little back.
So I guess we could go all the way to the beginning. I mean,
go all
the way to the beginning. So Carlee and I mean, we've been married for what, 15?
Almost 16 years
now in November. Yeah. So really, at the end of the day, like we've kind of done everything together. So Carlee and I both have competitive sports backgrounds. Like I played soccer and hockey and pretty much every sport under the sun, either at some level. And then Carlee was, in competitive cheer from Saskatchewan, because that's where she grew up. So that was actually a thing over there. It wasn't in Alberta here.
It wasn't a thing in Alberta at the time, except for in Edmonton. Edmonton was huge, but southern Alberta, when I moved to Calgary, there was nothing for competitive.
I mean, you guys went all over Canada. You went to the States, all that stuff. So for us, that competitive kind of drive always was always became part of our shooting, because I didn't start shooting. I didn't pick up a firearm until I was like 31 or 32. So it's been over a decade now. But really, it was like I didn't grow up with it. Nobody in my family hunted. I mean, we moved here from a war zone to Calgary straight in '92, right from a civil war, and like guns were the last thing on anybody's mind. And it was perceived in a very negative way. Lots of trauma there. Lots of family trauma over the last 100 years with all the wars in Europe over that time as well. So it just wasn't a thing.
Yeah, and I was raised with a family with a really strong hunting tradition, but that's no place for a woman. So
at least it wasn't that.
At least it wasn't at that time.
Yeah.
Now, absolutely, but when I was growing up, it really wasn't. So I wasn't really around firearms a whole lot growing up.
So a situation kind of arose where we were going to inherit some family heirloom firearms, and we're like, we should go get our pals because we don't have them. And so we did the courses together. We did our pals, and then it kind of just really snowballed from there. Once we got our first firearms, there were like 12 and 20 gauge shotguns. We went clay shooting. We just fell in love with it. It was amazing. Then we started bird hunting together, and then
we're like, oh my goodness, we can do this competitively.
Yeah. So there's pistol sports. There's this. There's that. And then it just snowballed in there. So we started shooting steel challenge together. We
just went to those practice nights, those league nights that they have at just a lot of the ranges. And I mean, Canada, summer, northern hemisphere, I mean, it's June, you could be out there till 9. It's great. So you go after work, it's great, it's a great group. And then for you, it really snowballed. He got into IPSC and did his black badge course and went through all of that.
And then automatically, if you have a competition pistol right away, you're like, what else can I do with this thing? Then there was like IPPA, then there was free gun, multi-gun, all this stuff. And I was like, I got to build a nice competition AR. Then I got to have a nice, tube shotgun that's competitive and all this. And it gets crazy.
But then I got pregnant. So that slowed my shooting career a little bit. I did compete in nationals when I was 5 months pregnant. But it was like rimfire 22. So nothing crazy. That kind of thing.
We had to check with the doctor.
I was like, can I shoot competitively? And like our OBGYN was like, you were the first people to ever ask me that in my entire career. Yeah. I was like, well, I'm just wondering. They're like, well, like, what are you doing? Like, you shooting like a 12 gauge? I'm like, no, just like a rimfire pistol. Like, you're fine. Yeah. There's so much fluid in there. You're fine. Yeah. So
So that's kind of how things started. And then, you know, it wasn't like to Carlee's point before we got into the kind of vast history before, but it wasn't until I got into precision rifle shooting, like longer range rifle stuff, when Carlee was pregnant. I built a gun because a bunch of guys I was shooting 3-gun with, and Taylor was actually one of those guys.
Yeah.
So we knew each other from that era as well. And we stayed in touch over the years. I got into that, and then really once I assembled and shot my first match or two, I was like, you know, I think I'm looking to upgrade to my optic. There's nothing in there that in that price point, without spending $4,000 to $6,000, I can't get like a top tier optic with all the features, with the right reticle, with the right click feel, and all the different things, and eye relief, and everything that goes into it.
But you're doing this while we found out that we were pregnant with our second child in less than 2 years. We had a 7-month-old baby and then another one on the way. So. Yeah. And we were renovating our kitchen, so we thought, let's start an optics company.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a bit of a thought experiment. I'm like, can we make this ourselves? And then we could take the dog and the kid for a walk and just talk about it. And we're like, let's just go for it. Let's do it. And
why not?
We ended up talking to a bunch of manufacturing partners and companies that already do the major brands like Vortexes and Zeisses and everybody else in the world. And really, it just kind of came down to picking the right partner and going through that process. But yeah, that was kind of the exciting moment. I was like, when we finally decided, like, okay, let's put all the eggs in one basket. Let's do this. And yeah, we just kind of, that's how Apex was launched. So
it's really crazy to think about when we look back. I'm just like, I remember sitting at our kitchen island, pregnant with one baby upstairs, watching Van Tyler backsplash, trying to like figure out what we're doing with this and all of those things. Like, but it's part of our Apex legend, I guess.
Yeah. So basically three babies in a Renault. 2 were children. 1 was a company.
Correct. Yeah.
The Renault. Right. So you're setting the bar high for the rest of us. I just want you guys to know that.
And I was still consulting full time at the time. So it was a crazy little while there. I mean, there were lots of nights where, the baby's kicking. So she's up at 2 a.m. and I'm up to 2 anyway, because I'm talking to the engineers in Japan, or I'm talking to this supplier over here. So, there was a lot of missed sleep, but not because of the kids, because the kids
are great sleepers.
Yeah, they've always
people like, how are you so productive? I'm like, our kids are still to this day, they'll sleep 11, 12, 13 hours a night. So we're very fortunate that
melatonin, that's the answer.
So
they've always been good sleepers.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is that you created a company based on what you need.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how most companies are created. Most people who are they need something and then they go and invent the product. I do know that when you first started, you reached out to the community asking, what would you like to see in an optic? And how much input did you get from the community on that?
We got a ton of input from the community. I mean, we always pride ourselves on being for shooters, by shooters, and especially with our initial product, the Rival, which is our 4-30 2x56 competition long range rifle scope. We asked people, like, how many people did we?
I think we had between 15 to 20 people that we sent out. Like, we kind of created a formal survey, and it was just a document. I'm like, just fill this out. What do you want to see? What do you not want to see? What's important to you?
If you could make a wish list to have your ideal product created from scratch, if you could just had carte blanche and like unlimited budget, I guess, what would you put into this? What is missing from the market? What would you love to have? What are things that get in your way that you're like, oh, this irks me in a product, or those kinds of things? And like, just, tell us. And people were overwhelmingly supportive. They were so excited that just people even asked or even cared. And one of the things kind of about the optics industry is a lot of the people that actually design optics don't shoot
at all,
especially like over in Japan, for instance, because they'll come to us and they'll be like, oh, well, what do you think about this feature? And we're like, no,
we will be in engineering.
It doesn't do anything. And they're like, well, what do you mean? So we're in engineering meetings and we're showing them YouTube videos from like precision rifle series and band shooting different stages at competitions or things like that. We've actually educated like the Japanese manufacturing community just about what it is that we do in the actual practical case for these products, why we want this and don't want this, and why something like this is important. Or they're like, oh, well, we tested it in the cold. And I'm like, what does cold mean to you? And they're like, oh, like -10. I'm like, no,
that's colder.
Yeah.
That's September.
Yeah.
So like
That's September. Yes.
those kinds of things. So I mean, just things like that where like we need to think about big temperature fluctuations, you know, and sometimes I mean we're from Calgary, that can happen in one day, and those kinds of things. Or what if you drop a rifle down the side of a mountain? Is it gonna survive?
Or you take it from a warm truck out into a cold blind, or you're out hiking and so you've had your rifle and your scope are warmed up at 23, 24 degrees Celsius, and now all of a sudden you open the door and it's minus 30. So that has to all be taken into account when we're engineering and designing products for this. So
and the public helped us with that as well. They're like, oh, have you considered this? Because this has been a problem for me, or this is something that's missing, or a lot of it too. And a big thing was, if you could design a reticle for competition, what would you have and not have? What is important? What do you love that's out there? What aspects? What do you hate? And those kinds of things as well.
And I mean, and to be quite honest, I mean, my experience in PRS and long range shooting at that time was pretty limited. I think I only had a couple of matches under my belt, and I learned a ton in my first match. I learned even more in my second match. But then at that point, it's like, okay, well, I kind of know what I want, but my scope is fairly limited in kind of education in that space. And I'm not an expert in any sense. So, we reach out to guys who are legends in the field, and then we reach out to some of the top shooters in Canada and the guys that I shot a lot of matches with. And that's how you get that. We effectively crowdsourced product development for the first product. So that was, and it seemed to really work out well for us, because the comment that we got was like, holy crap, you guys nailed it. That was like all the things that I've been looking for. And that's consistently what we hear from people. And we're like, oh, okay, that's good.
So like, don't worry, it's only Gen 1.
So you've been in the business 4 years, developing optics and listening to customer feedback to build it to where it is today. So I'm curious, being somebody that's been out and buying optics and looked through some amazing glass that I certainly couldn't afford. When people are shopping, they either shop for product or price, because it's kind of one or the other. Price is no object, or it's something that has to be good enough. So where do you guys fit in the market if people have just heard about you tonight for the first time? Where do you fit in the market, and why do you feel that that's your niche?
That's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I think, I don't know, maybe I'll take a crack at this first. But I think, quite honestly, I would put our optical system, our glass, with the top tier brands right up there. That was always the goal. The goal was to make the best possible product that we can, and not have to charge through the nose for it. Because we wanted to make it accessible to everybody that wanted to upgrade from, if they had like a relatively basic setup or something that was either in production class, or because they have to meet certain price thresholds and they want to move into open and they want to go to that next couple of levels up without having to pay that tier 1 price. Well, you can get up to $8,000 or $9,000 now for a top tier optic, and that's out of that. I mean, that's a car for a lot of people, right? So it's an expensive sport, but it doesn't have to be. So we've tried to kind of attack that mid-tier market with an upper tier product. And that was always kind of the little slice of a niche that we try to carve out for ourselves, where, you can go, well, you could spend $4,000, or you can buy ours for $2,500 and save yourself a bunch of money for ammo or reloading components or a bipod or a nice new chassis or barrels, whatever. Match fees, travel, whatever, right? And we have guys who have switched to our optic from the $5,000 and $6,000 optics, and they ended up winning more. Now, whether that's because they like the reticle better or whatever, I'm sure, I'm not going to be able to make an argument to somebody say, well, a $5,000 optic is going to be twice as good as your $2,500 optic. And I'll go, well, not necessarily. I bet you it's probably 95% as good or 93% as good, and depending on how you define good. But without kind of confusing the issue too much, the way we were able to do that is by going direct to consumer.
And direct to dealer.
And direct to dealer. We would not have been able to do that if we kind of went the traditional distribution model. Yeah. So if we made them and then went through like 2 or 3 different layers of distributors, agents, wholesalers, retailers, and then you buy it from a store and it's been marked up 3 or 4 times at 25 to 50% increments, that adds up really quickly. So that's kind of how we're able to justify that and go, our stuff is made in the exact same factory as the tier 1 alpha glass stuff. And it's made to the same spec, the same standards, everything else. So that's where kind of, I think we try to position ourselves in that top tier market without being a top tier price. Now, the other thing that I'll talk about is we joke internally all the time. I'm like, would we sell more optics if we just charge $5,000 for it instead of $2,500? Because there's that price fallacy.
There
right?
is, yeah.
So people think it's just because, well, it's $5,000, so it must be twice as good. And that's a totally reasonable assumption to make, right? But yeah.
The other thing too, I mean, with the shooting sports, particularly the long range sports, which I call like the precision rifle disciplines, growing so quickly, especially during COVID, because it was outside and you were distanced, right? With those sports growing so rapidly, we really wanted that accessible price point so that you didn't have to make a sacrifice and, you know, eventually, okay, well, maybe when I can afford it, I can upgrade or those kinds of things, so that, you know, when you were spending the money that you were often on a custom rifle, that you didn't have to spend such a significant amount of money on glass to be able to get that quality and longevity of a piece of equipment.
Yeah, I mean, because when I first built my first competition rifle, it was like an off-the-shelf Remington 700 with a factory barrel, threw it into an ACC MDT chassis, and had a $600 scope on it. And that was the best scope that I could kind of justify at that time, just kind of trying something out. But, you know, and then you slowly go, okay, well, is this barreled action as good as it could be with a custom or this or that? And then you start tinkering and everybody's chasing the gear. And then when I decided to get really serious into the sport, then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to invest in a custom rifle and I'm going to invest in a better optic. And then I was kind of trying to figure out what to get. I just kind of like, oh, we'll just invest a whole bunch more money and, you know, start an optics company instead. And I could have just $4,000 on like a callus.
So that's a logical path, right?
Yeah.
That's a logical path.
Yeah.
So what competitions are we seeing the Apex products showing up at now, and what's your product line like after 4 years?
Yeah, so we started out, like I said, with our first product, which was the Rival 4-32 by 56 competition rifle scope. We really started out with that in the precision rifle series market, which also would include precision rifle series rimfire, and now like the NRL Hunter series. Now we're seeing also now with our 3-15 Hunter scope, a lot of people are actually using it in the NRL 22 series as well, just because they do have some of the smaller distances. And I like to say that it's kind of just like a smaller, cuter version of the Rival, which is our hunting scope. We didn't design it for competition. We just did design it for hunting, but a lot of people like it for that use case. We also have our Edge 1-10 low power variable optic, which we really like for like a PCC platform.
Yeah, it was kind of designed for 3-gun, multi-gun, and law enforcement tactical purposes. But one of the kind of funny things is when a customer decides to put it on something that wasn't intended on, you go, oh, that's cool. I've never seen that. And you see, they send you a picture.
Was it Carlee who put on a turkey gun?
Yeah, put on a turkey gun. That's a pretty cool thing. Yeah, it's like that works, I guess. I never thought about putting an LPV on a turkey gun, but hey, that's awesome.
So we have that one as well. And then we expanded to binoculars.
I saw that.
So we have 10 by 42s, 12 by 50s. Then we developed a 12 by 50. And this is, again, where feedback from customers and our shooting team comes into play, is our 12 by 50 binos are available with an etched ranging reticle in them. Now, we have a group, a pair on our shooting team who has competed extensively in the NRL Hunter series. And last summer, they actually won the Grand Slam. So these two guys from Saskatchewan went down to the US and they took the championship. And from doing that, they were like, you know, you're making binos? We're like, yeah. They're like, any chance you put a reticle in there? Like we talked to the factory, hadn't even thought of it. A lot of companies have actually started discontinuing that particular product line, and we brought it back, and now other companies seem to be following that as well. And then now we have launched a 15 by 56 binocular available with and without that etched ranging reticle, which is a bit beefier, but I mean, for spotting misses and, you know,
measuring
targets and all those things at extensive distances, those are something we're really excited about. And then, you know, since you mentioned Taylor and Mel, we should probably mention our red dots.
Yeah, the red dots, they're finally landing actually this week. So we're pretty excited about those. They're a little bit delayed, but The red dots were a passion project of mine personally, because I mean, I ran red dots for a long time before I ever got into any of the long range stuff, and really wanted to make I didn't want to just make a Me Too red dot. Like, so we have two red dots. One is the Atom, one is the Fusion, and the Fusion is more the competitive shooting one, meant for really any of the IPSC, USPSA disciplines, any kind of speed shooting, really.
Steel challenge.
We had, and we have four members really of our team now that have been shooting them and setting records
with the prototypes.
Yeah. So awesome. They're really the first pre-production models that were ever made for us, with our custom reticle that we designed for it. And I think the cool thing about it, and this is something that I wanted, was we invented literally a thing that has never existed before. And we have to patent it. We have to spend like almost $20,000 in patent filings just to secure this as our property, because, you know, I had this idea for probably like a year or two while we were designing the Rival. I'm like, there's got to be a way to make a red dot that has two different dot sizes built into the same dot, instead of being like, I want a 3 MOA dot and then a 6 MOA red dot, and you have to have two physically different products.
Because if you're shooting multiple disciplines, like you would say, you know, got a competition pistol, you're like, well, what else can I do with it?
Because I didn't want to have like 4 different pistols for a couple of different things.
You're switching out optics, like that can be annoying, and those kinds of things. So why not something that, you know, one to rule them all?
Yeah. So it was really like, you just press the up button and it changes the dot size from 2.5 MOA to 12 MOA. So, you know, you can go really far, and you got a small dot for those medium and long distance engagements. And then for like, if you're doing steel challenge or something really, you know, inside of, you know, 10, 15 yards, you know, got to go super fast. You get that 12 MOA dot and ripper. So
Tristan Rutledge from our team has been setting national and international steel challenge records just over and over. I think this is a bit of a passion project for him now, to just see how many records he can just break wide open. It's honestly incredible to watch. And then last weekend at IPSC Nationals for Pistol here in Canada, Mel and Taylor and AJ took Taylor took top overall, top production. Mel took top lady, and AJ took top junior. So our shooting team did incredibly well.
And we're immensely proud of them.
We're immensely proud of them. The amount of time and effort and training and dry fire and range time and ammo and all of that it takes to get to that level, and to be able to, I mean, let alone just the mental fortitude to be at the top of your sport, because it's a perishable skill. To be able to do that and stay on top like that is absolutely incredible. Honestly, we're just proud to be a part of it with them. They're just they're also just incredible humans too. So I mean, you have to say, I mean, I would just root for them.
And honestly, and Taylor, when I first got the idea for the red dots, and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And he's like, that would be killer. I'm like, okay, I'm working on it. And like 4 months later, I'm like, okay, I think I know how to do it. It's like, and then 3 months later, it's like, okay, I talked to engineers. I think we might be able to pull it off, because this hasn't been done before. And because literally, like, the technology didn't exist. They couldn't find a way to make the LED emitters the way that I wanted to. So literally it took, I think, 12 months of just back and forth with these guys until I found the right way to do it. And then there were still lots of compromises to be had, but Taylor is the one that actually helped me with some of the sizing. We're like, okay, what's the right MOA? What's the right sizing? What are the right options that you guys want? And then we brought Tristan in, and we're like, if he's a speed shooting guy, I'm like, if you were going to use it for this, then what would this need to look like? And so we went through that process with them and got all that feedback as well. And now it's kind of how that product came to be. So yeah.
That's what we have so far.
That's
amazing. What you have.
So yes, so far. That's it.
So far.
So you talked about
we have, I think, 31 projects in the queue right now.
Yes,
wow.
We do. We actually had to really look at that this week, and we're like, okay, what is making sense?
Properly
roadmap things. What's getting greenlit? What's, you know, we're still waiting on, and those kinds of things.
What's still in the idea stage? Yeah.
When do we announce what makes sense? All that kind of stuff. So
I have so many questions. I just my head's spinning. So with the conversation so far, we've talked about hunting and hunting uses. We've talked a lot about sport and competitive uses, but you did drop a little soundbite about law enforcement or maybe military use. Do you have that audience or demographic using your product as well?
Yeah. So with the red dots, we got a lot of attention with the LPVO when we announced it at SHOT 2023, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, 23. When we came out with the 1 to 10, that was a big kind of foray push for us into the law enforcement and tactical space.
Okay.
that got a lot of attention as well, because that one also had like a really interesting reticle design that allowed you to shoot really fast at low power and really precisely at longer range at high power. So that was another kind of cool innovative thing that we did with the LPDO, because again, that came down to, you know, multi-use applicability
and feedback as
from,
well
from the guys like Taylor and everybody else.
And also with our 1 to 10, we were fortunate enough to be able to communicate with some of the U.S. Navy SEAL teams, and they were able to give us some feedback and use case and test them out in training just to see how durable they could be.
And that's a crazy story all in and of itself. That could eat up an entire podcast of how we got hooked up with those guys, and that was just like ridiculous. But in that saying all that, like we got a lot of input from a lot of those experts in the field, and it took the product in a direction that I didn't think it could go, but then it kind of eventually wound up there. And now, honestly, us having that international reach that you kind of, you know, alluded to with the show, we have some security companies out of Europe that are putting in large orders for, you know, the Edge, and they're waiting for the red dots to come in, and they're waiting for this, and they're waiting for that, and they're very excited about the things that we're making, because we're meeting a demand that not a lot of the other companies are trying to meet at this point, because they don't really see the benefit in it, because, you know, they're going for the gigantic military contracts, and that's fine, they can have that, but, you know, we can have the other ones.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
well, you mentioned it. You were down in SHOT Show in 2022, and you were just at that point. That was 2 years ago, so that you were just 2 years old as a company. You have go ahead.
Sorry, SHOT Show 2022. I mean, I have to give a big thank you. We didn't have a booth that year. We weren't sure what we were going to do. We still had product prototypes. We were still 6 months away from shipping our first product, and we had 2 prototypes. And KDEX and MDT were incredible Canadian supportive companies, and they each took one, put it on a rifle, and displayed it for 4 straight days at SHOT Show, and said, bring people by, show them, we'll tell them you're a new company, come hang out at the booth, come have dinner with us, any of those things. Anything they could do as a Canadian company to just help us out and give us a helping hand was honestly just so kind, and we're so grateful that we had that kind of support.
Absolutely.
And then, so, you know, in 2023, when we had our first booth at SHOT Show, we, you know, had rifles from both companies, and then they each displayed several of our optics. I think last year for 2024, KDEX had 6 or more of our optics displayed. MDT asked for 10. It was honestly, it was really incredible.
And we try to reciprocate.
We try to reciprocate and return the favor, always using their stuff in our social media content and at our booth as well, because it's always nicer to put an optic on something than not. So it's always great to have that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just was like,
no, and I think that's exactly where I was going with the questions. I remember seeing exactly that. KDEX, they featured one of your optics on their guns, their rifles, and they're beautiful rifles, obviously, but they're used in, especially with PRS. A lot of the shooters in the PRS world here in Canada use them. So, and I know that, Vanya, you actually were shooting PRS, and as part of that, you were designing this optic that you wanted, and got everybody's feedback. So it just makes sense. It makes sense to actually partner with other Canadian companies. You were able to get into SHOT Show via that avenue, and then what happened after that is you got your own booth and reciprocating, because my question is, there's those companies that are out there, those larger ones that you were talking about, that have captured or going after the big markets, like the Vortex, like the other companies, and then there's little old Canadian company that's sliding in there, and you're going after that market. It sounds like that is it's a unique market, but it's also a market that hasn't been serviced before. These are optics that people are looking for, and it's the exact same thing. I think it's the exact same thing that you were talking about. You were looking for an optic that was suitable for you and what you wanted, and nobody had it, so they're looking for somebody else to build it. Is that right?
Yeah, basically, and it really
can be. Yeah. Oftentimes, we'll have we've had people come up to our booths at trade shows, and they're like, well, have you ever thought of making this? And I'm like, I have contemplated it. And they're like, oh, well, there's like a bunch of things that I'd love to see that I think are missing. And I'm like, give me your wish list. What do you think would be awesome? Like,
And people think that we're just humoring them.
They think we're humoring them. And I'm like,
notes.
no, I'm legitimately taking notes. Here is my card. Please send me all 10 things that we just discussed.
Well, I'll give you another example of that. We took our family to the NRL Hunter match in BC over at the Beckley Ranch, Three Bars Ranch, in just outside of Cranbrook. Yeah. And it was over in May, and it was gorgeous weather. It was like 23 degrees.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Beautiful scenery, like unbeatable scenery. It was so nice. But it was my first NRL Hunter match, and I kind of knew what I was doing. I had some fire hose training from our top shooters in NRL Hunter, the guys that won the team match at the Grand Slam last year. And I was like, tell me everything I need to know. But then when I actually shot the match and I went through it, and a bunch of guys that I was squatted up with, halfway through the match on day 2, they kind of found out that we were making a certain product that we're in development for, a product that I can't talk about just yet because there's some IP stuff getting filed. But we were chatting. They kind of found out through the grapevine. They're like, hey, is this what you guys doing this? I'm like, I can't say it. He's like, well, if you are, I have some ideas. I'm like, give them to me now. He's like, so like in this last stage, what just happened, like this, and that. And I was like, I never thought of it that way. That's a really cool idea. I'm like, And then I literally get on my phone right away and I'm just like taking notes, like just brain dump. As this guy's talking, I'm like just taking notes. And literally that went into our patent filing as an idea that I was like, we took that idea that the customer had, we refined it, we kind of made it make sense for the product, and just try to figure out like how do we commercialize this idea, because it's an awesome idea. It's something that's missing in every other product in the space, and what would make ours basically kick butt. So
Yeah.
So you've talked a lot about collaboration. You've talked about the Canadian success stories all working together. And I think to Kelly's point, that's super exciting. We're such a small industry to have the big Canadian brands working together and building each other up. Excuse me, that's really exciting. So, but what I'd like to do is pivot for a second. You've talked a lot about your supply chain coming from outside of Canada. What's the market like outside of Canada for Apex right now in year 4?
Honestly, the demand has been unbelievable.
Yeah.
We've done a couple of the big international shows, SHOT Show being one of them, but then we've gone to IWA, which is the IWA Outdoors Classics in Nuremberg, Germany, a couple times as well.
And that's another story where a Canadian company gave us a call in 2023 after we were at SHOT Show. Vanja got a call from
2022.
It was 22. I'm sorry. Yes, it was 2022. Because again, we didn't have product yet. We still had our prototypes. And JR Cox from the Edge Group and Sterling Arms gave Van a call and said, hey, I'm going to be displaying at UA in Nuremberg. Basically pack a bag, grab your wife, and like, let's go. So we displayed at their booth for Sterling Arms. We put our optics on their rifles and went to UA that year as well.
That was our European.
European coming out party before we even had product to ship. Just for that whole other market. And then we were back at UA again this year with our own booth, and tackling like the market now, especially with like the security space and all of that over in Europe.
And we had a lot more products, obviously, and we've been established. Like the Rival had been out for 2 years at that point, and we had a bunch of team shooters.
We do have team shooters in Europe now as well.
People had heard of us, which was really cool. And then obviously there were a whole bunch of people that hadn't heard of us, but we had a hunting scope, we had red dots to show, we had binocular lineups, and so then now people really kind of started taking note, and out of that we had people walking up to us in meetings and that said, hey, we did our research on you guys. I want to check you guys out in person, meet you in person. We're setting a meeting for tomorrow. We want to do a deal. I'm like, okay. That kind of takes you a little bit by surprise.
People are very serious at UA.
Yeah, and they're very, very straightforward, right? Which is good.
European bluntness.
Yeah. But so that was a really cool thing. And then so now we have been growing fairly quickly in South Africa. We have a really big dealer in South Africa that's been pushing the product, and he believes in it. And he has a store down there, and he's been bringing it in, and it's been doing really well. We have Australia, New Zealand, a whole bunch of European countries. I think we have France, Germany, England, and a bunch of other places. So between kind of Canada, US, that's been the major kind of focus for us. But then
of course, the United States is always the largest market for this.
For sure. And I mean, I know talking to the other Canadian companies that are big in this space, the Canadian market is sometimes less than 5% of their total sales. So the international market is huge.
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what keeps the economy going, right? So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter where the sales will come from.
Yeah. It's amazing how well these Canadian companies are doing in the international market.
Especially given our government
Yeah.
and the policies and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Well, why don't we talk about that just a little bit? You mentioned it, the elephant in the room. Our government and the legislation that has recently happened. I know that you mentioned it, Carlee, that rimfire especially, but also PRS is caught on like wildfire. Your optics, have they been impacted at all since the legislation has taken place? Have you had to pivot? You introduced the binos, so what's taking place with that?
I will say, how do I say this? We really started out with the rifle scope for bolt action sports. Shall I say? Because
and that was strategic.
That was strategic because that was the faster growing sport, especially in Canada. Because I mean, what do you do if you want to start shooting pistol sports now? It's not, the barrier to entry is significantly larger. Or impossible. You really hope you got a good friend who's willing to let you share, I guess, at this point. So that really has made us, think about things a little bit. We did have some people who had some questions when we did launch our 1 to 10 LPBO. They're like, so is this only for Americans? Like, what are Canadians supposed to do? We don't have ARs here. And I'm like, there are a lot of other uses for a 1 to 10. A lot of people like them for a shorter hunting engagement or those kinds of things. Not everybody is like a long distance backpack in the mountains counting grams kind of hunter in this country. We're a very small portion of that market, right? So, or red dots. People are like, well, what are Canadians going to do with red dots if they don't have pistols? I'm like, turkey guns.
And plus, there's plenty of pistols.
Still. There's still loads and loads of them. So,
so I mean, to answer that question, I guess in a different way, I think since we've launched the products, we haven't seen an impact, but I know that there's an impact to the industry.
Yes.
So the market size could be significantly bigger for our products if the government hadn't gone in and done what they've done, which has messed up the entire industry. There are so many retailers hurting right now.
Oh my gosh.
There are so many manufacturing companies hurting. I mean, there have been businesses and lives ruined over this.
We have had retailers since we started. Some of our first dealers have shut their doors, and that's incredibly sad.
And we had a good relationship.
Great relationships with these people who are great people. I mean, this is their livelihood destroyed. So that, I mean, your heart aches for these people because it could be any of us. It's really what, we're all.
And we've been lucky because we're not in the gun industry per se. We're gun adjacent, right? So
correct.
I had a TSA agent once think that I was a very specialized astronomer with miniature telescopes in a backpack.
Aren't they cute?
Right? I know. It's like, oh, bless your heart. That's how we are firearms adjacent.
Yeah.
But things like binoculars do allow us to pivot to markets that have literally nothing to do with firearms.
Outdoor enthusiasts, birding,
marine, entertainment, any of those kinds of things. So it does really open a market up for us, as opposed to being like a traditional firearms manufacturer. We are fortunate in that space.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You never know what's going to happen tomorrow, because I know during one of the rounds of bans, they were even talking about limiting optic magnification power
to 4x.
So it was like a 4x optical system or 4x magnification. We're like, that's going to murder our product before we even launch.
Well, that was when we only had the rival, and we're like, we start at 4. So we're like, what are we doing here? Because there was discussion about that being a potential thing, is limiting the magnification of rifle scopes in Canada, and we're like, what?
It's ridiculous.
Thankfully, that has not happened.
Apparently, that was a problem that needed to be solved. So
but I will say, though, that I mean, we are fearful for things like if there are magazine limitations, even on bolt action rifles. Where does that leave any of our competitors for any of the precision rifle sports? Because in all reality, we don't necessarily. We have a lot of great leagues in Canada, but we have a lot of leagues that they kind of straddle the border, right? They have clubs in Canada and in the United States. And so, we go down and we compete in the US, and the Americans come up and compete here. But that will put us at a massive disadvantage, especially when it comes to international competition. I mean, World Championships are 29 days away. What would that do to the Canadian team if they had to, they couldn't practice with 10-round mags, just as an example, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Do you want to talk about what you've done recently with supporting the gun community? Talk about some of the matches that you've organized, but also actually some of the matches you also sponsor as well.
Well, let's talk about the sponsor stuff first, and we'll go back to our match. But
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I mean, you know this better than I do, because I'm trying to step away from all the sponsorship stuff and let you and Madeline deal with it all. But yeah, really, I mean, we've tried to, because we come from the sport and we come from the community. Our biggest thing was always like, not just a good marketing idea, but what is the thing that'll give back to the community, give back to the shooters, and get people introduced to our products. And we always thought sponsoring matches was like just an easy answer to all those problems, right? And we've sponsored everything from the Canadian Rimfire Precision Series right off the bat. Like working with Rick, that was amazing since the very beginning. He was a huge supporter of ours, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'd love to see you guys come in. What can we do to help you guys out? And let's work together and sponsor matches and all that stuff." And he's been a huge booster for us. And obviously, the Northern Rimfire Series, the Precision Rifle Series, BCPRL, the Southern Alberta Precision Rifle League, where I started shooting long range.
We always say we're born out of Sapril.
Yeah. And then obviously
just a lot of independent matches as well across Canada.
Yeah. And then
Stittsville Precision has been another really big supporter of ours as well.
Any of the PCC matches that have been happening, any of the 3-gun stuff across the country, we've tried to sponsor all that. And then we moved into the States and obviously supporting the NRL Hunter Series and Precision Rifle Series as a title sponsor in the Northeast region was a pretty big move for us actually a couple years ago.
I'm a little bit proud of too, because the Northeast region and the PRS probably has some of the highest concentration of Canadian competitors that go down and compete there.
All from Southern Ontario.
All from Southern Ontario and Quebec.
Oh, I know.
We went to the finale last year, and they actually play the Canadian national anthem as well as the American one.
Nice.
At the safety brief and everything, and then they do a photo of just Canadians, and then
there were like 22 of us or something.
At least, yeah. And then Nationals was at the same range in Pennsylvania, and they did another photo of just Canadians, and the number of us that were there was again like really overwhelming. So sponsoring a lot of those US matches really supports a lot of Canadian shooters as well. But we really want to be able to give back. I mean, sometimes, even at the smaller matches, we'll have somebody reach out to us and they're like, "Oh, I don't have a ton of people coming. I'm not doing a prize table." And I'm like, "Go buy a bunch of Gatorade and send me a receipt, and I'll e-transfer you for it." Because I'm like, I know it's going to be 35. Like,
let's keep people
hydrated. I'll be like, go to Costco, buy some sunscreen and some Gatorade and some bottled water. Text me a picture of the receipt, and And I mean, just things like that, they go a long way. It's one less thing that a match director has to think about including in their match fee or their cost or something to put on the match. It's something that we've suggested and offered to a lot of the smaller club match directors who are looking for, they want support from the community and from like industry in Canada, but they know they're not a huge match that's going to have like 100 people or something like that, or they want to keep it a smaller match that they can introduce a lot of new shooters or those kinds of things. Or it's like, hey, you know what, like I've got a demo day coming up, or a beginner day, or a ladies day, or like a bring your kid day, or those kinds of family days and those types of things. And I'm like, yeah, we're all for it. Like, what do you need? You want me to help you buy like 50 boxes of granola bars, or like how can we support your event? Like what's missing? What do you need? Let us know. We'll try and accommodate. Or sometimes it's like, can you send me 50 stickers? I'm like, yes, that is easy. I can do that.
But really our level of support kind of ranges from that to, product on the table and prize certificates and everything else, or having representatives at the match to be able to answer people's questions. Or a lot of times that used to be us and still is.
It used to be us.
And we'll go to the finales and stuff like that. And whether I shoot it or not, or whatever, we'll always be there to answer any questions about either the company or the products or whatever else. And really, it's just being in the community, I think, is the most important thing for us, and being at the matches. Like, I honestly almost prefer now being at the match and just walking around the fire line and hanging out with people in squads and just going squad to squad and just chit-chatting with people, as opposed to even shooting now. But
it's just fun to be there and be part of the community and get to know everybody, and just to really be a part of it.
And I mean, even like our shooting team, for one, is something that we've tried to build out as kind of an extension of our company and being part of our family. And that's just kind of been an iterative process over a couple of years. So we started out really small. I think we had 6 to start with, then we went to 10, and then we went to like 35, and now we're at like 70 almost across the world.
And we choose our shooting team a little bit differently than other companies do as well.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so a lot of people, like, I know there are a lot of companies that will look at, okay, well, who finished in the top 5 in a certain number of matches this year and is in a certain region, and that's who we get. And winning is great. Don't get me wrong. I love winning, and I'm real proud of our team when they do. And I know what it takes to get to that level and what they've put into that. But for us, it's not just about that. Growing the sport is something that we, and particularly me, are very passionate about. We have some junior shooters, junior girls in particular. What's really interesting to me is junior shooters, and this isn't just unique to Canada. I'm seeing this globally. Generally speaking, a lot of the junior shooters are girls. Vast majority of them. So, I mean, like, it's crazy to me. So we're just going to see this like explosion of like women that are competing against each other.
And like good talent.
Well, I mean, last year for Worlds, the US had too many junior girls that they put juniors on their women's team.
And still won.
So
I saw that.
they're incredible. And so, I mean, in Southern Ontario, we've got 2 girls down there who they're young girls, and they're absolutely lovely, and they're in 2 different regions, which is really great. Or 3 girls, I'm sorry. We have 3 young girls down in Southern Ontario. We just added one this season. My math is off. I apologize. And their goal is to get other youth and other young girls involved in this sport. They don't want to win top junior because they're the only one there. They want to get other people doing what they're doing too. They're the ones, which is astonishing to me. These young women are, I can almost not even call them young women yet, but they're the ones that are really growing this sport at an incredible grassroots level. They are incredible brand ambassadors for us in just this amazing way that I think was just so important, because people are like, really, like, you're sponsoring that kid? And I'm like, yes, I am sponsoring that kid because they believe in what they're doing. One of our junior shooters, a few years ago now, she sent us this long application, and I read the whole thing. I thought she was like 30, and I look at it and I was like, she is 15. Her parents know she'd applied. She went through the whole process herself. I interviewed her. She was great. Just this wonderful, well-spoken young woman. And yeah, it turns out, no, she's 15. Parents didn't know. And they're like, so, like, sent us an email. Like, could we just maybe have like a quick discussion? And I was like, yeah, I was actually hoping to maybe circle back with you on this, you know? But it's honestly, it's wonderful.
And that's one of the things that we've always looked for in people is that if we're going to represent them is, you know, one, are you a good human being first and foremost? And are you a good representative of the sport?
Yeah.
You know, and do you represent yourself really well at a match? Because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to throw their gear down if they're frustrated or whatever else. And I mean, I've been that guy. Don't worry.
But we also,
but
we're not looking for like our barometer, and this is kind of like a silly pop culture reference, is we don't want people who are going to be like Don Johnson and Tin Cup, who's mean to kids.
I got it. Yeah.
It's just like how you carry yourself, and how you carry yourself when you're at your worst is, you know, when you're having a terrible day, because the best shooters can have some bad days. I have watched the leaderboard crumble at matches, whether it be the weather or equipment failure or whatever. It's really mental mistakes. I mean, we all make them. We're human beings. So how these people carry themselves
was the most important thing. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times, like, it ended up being that, you know, just by merely investing as a company into some of these shooters, it gave them the motivation to get better. That was never our goal. I mean, like, if you shoot for us, you have to finish in the top 10 or you're off the team. Like, that was never a thing. In fact, we always told people, just do what you're doing. Don't even look at the leaderboard. Don't even care if you win or not. Like, I don't even know how you did. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Just as long as you're representing yourself well and representing us well, that's all that matters. But then we started seeing our team like do really, really well. And you know, one podcaster stateside made a comment one time that really irked us, and she said something on the lines of, so your optics are for the mid-pack shooter. And we're like,
no.
Like, no, we're for everyone.
Yeah.
if it's your first match or your 500th match or your 1000th match,
or you finish in the top 10 or the bottom 10,
or you're 10 years old, or you are 80 years old, or however you finish on the leaderboard.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's really kind of the essence of how we picked our team, and it's worked out really well for us so far, and we hope to kind of continue that.
Well, from what I've seen, all of the people who are working with your optics or they're representing your optics very, very well.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So
I will say we usually get emails Monday morning from match directors. We get emails from other people that like squad mates, other competitors and things, complimenting us on whoever they shot with the weekend before or things like that. And that makes us feel really good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We love seeing that.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, because it's a lot of time, like we always tell our folks that shoot for our team, I'm like, they always either bring a spare rifle or a spare optic or spare ammo, and if somebody's stuff goes down, they're like, here, grab mine, shoot this. And that's always the thing, right? Or they're
like, hey buddy, I got another rifle in the truck,
you can use it. Or if it's somebody's first match, they're coaching them through it, and they're walking through. It's like, hey, I noticed you were doing that. Maybe adjust this a little bit and you'll have a better time on the next stage, or this and that, right? So it's those little things that go a long way, and we hear it literally almost every weekend after a match from people, and we love hearing that kind of feedback.
I've seen all of the people that represent you and are sponsored shooters by you, and you've done a great job of selecting brand ambassadors. So thank you for doing that. It's promoting the sport.
So it is, and it's one of the questions that we usually ask in our podcast is, what can be done to grow the sport, and what can be done to bring more young women in? And I think, from a sponsor and a product ambassador perspective, you have really nailed it. And not to mention, it doesn't seem to matter the age of the individual, which I love that, Carlee. I love your perspective. And I still have a million questions, and we're running out of time. But one of the big ones is, where can I buy the product? Where do I find your product?
Yeah, really, apexoptics.co is our main website. If you go to .ca, it'll redirect you to that one as well, but that's our main site. We ship everything directly out of our warehouse in Calgary. So you guys, if you order something, it'll ship out the next day or the same day, depending on, I think, if you order before 10 o'clock.
Depending
on what time of day you do it. And then literally it'll be at your doorstep in a couple of days. And we also have a lot of retail partners throughout Canada and the US, obviously.
You do.
But those can be on our website under retailers, and you can find that stuff out. And plus, we have some pretty exciting ones soon to come as well that we'll be announcing in the next few weeks, I hope.
We've got a lot of new things coming out.
It's a couple more retail partners, a couple of ones that'll probably make it a little bit more accessible across the board. So and then we have a lot more product landing pretty soon too. So we'll be fully stocked.
And what about demo days? Where can we try your product out? Are we showing up at matches and trying it, or do you have pure demo days? Or tell us a little bit about that.
Well, our next big demo day is actually going to be down at the Cameo Shooting Complex at the IPRF World Championships. So the first 2 days of in Colorado, for World Championship week for IPRF, we actually have a range spot for demo purposes, which is really exciting.
But if you're not in Colorado,
we can be found. Honestly, if you're at a match and you see one of our sponsored shooters, if you see somebody in an Apex jersey, go over and ask to try it. They will be more than happy to let you give their rifle a try, play with the turrets, look through the glass, really give it a good, honest test to feel like if it's the right fit for you, which is really great, which is why we love having our sponsored shooting team, not only across Canada, but across the world, just so that people do have that opportunity. Because in all reality, to look at an optic in a store is a little bit difficult. I always tell people, I'm like, a trade show hall, it's like, oh yeah, that's all well and good.
Lighting.
Fluorescent lighting, it's awesome. I mean, EWA was really good in that they put like all of the major optics companies in a room with floor to ceiling windows on 3 sides, which was really nice of them to do, that somebody really thought the planning of that through. But it's hard to tell indoors. So when you're at a match, it gives you a really good opportunity.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only thing that we didn't mention was I was going to circle back to our match. So that's kind of our next demo day opportunity, because we had our Precision Rifle Series match that we hosted here just outside of Calgary was the first one in a couple of years that was
In
PRS affiliated in Canada. We're doing it again in July next year. So we're going to have even bigger and better, lots more competitors, lots more products, lots more sponsors. And
we're hoping to have a demo and train up day as well.
Nice.
And we are planning on doing a demo day in 2024 at some point. That was actually, 2025. In 2024, it was the plan, but we kind of just ran out of time with everything going on. But we don't have any designated demo days yet for this year, but hopefully for next year.
But if we do, they will be on our social media, and we'll always tell our email list and everything as well. So
you just segued exactly. I was going to say, and where can we find all this, and where can we find you? And I'm sure she's popped up your website, but your social media, I follow you, but that we want to make sure that spreads far and wide. And of course, this podcast is live tonight, but we will have it on our YouTube channel as well, so people can watch and or listen. And I'm sure that they're going to want to know these details. So tell us about your socials.
Yeah, so we're on Instagram, Facebook, and what is it? X, I guess. Yeah. I was going to call it Twitter. We're on all of those platforms. I think it's @apex_optics. If you're like, I don't want to figure out your handle, just go to apexoptics.co and you can just click the icon of your preferred social media channel. We also do have what is called the Apex Optics Social Club, which is a Facebook group that we have where I honestly feel like I share a lot of different things that are going on in the community. So if there are train up days or Project Maple Seed is happening, or there's like a beginner day or a family day or upcoming matches, because people are always like, where can I find a match near me? And I'm like, I'm just sharing to that page all of the time. And I'm trying to get a lot of match directors and other community members to do that as well. So if you've got a community event coming up or a ladies' day or something like that, feel free to join that group and share your events there. That is what it is made for. It is a community bulletin board. So we just really wanted to create that space for people to be able to do that and share their things and help grow the community with us.
I can attest to that. You share so much. I'm part of that page, and it's wonderful to see everything that you post. It's amazing. So thank you.
That's amazing. So I hate to say it, but we're just over the top of the hour, and I'm sure we could talk for another hour nonstop. I only got through the top 4 questions.
I know, me too.
Right? That I had written down. And so there's just so much to learn about Vanja and Carlee, so much to learn about Apex. And so we're going to have to follow up on this at some point, maybe after the match next year, and see how things are going. It's an amazing success story, and all the best, and congratulations. And I can't wait to get my hands on an optic or some binos just to see what looking through your glass is like. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Exciting. So we've got the girls in the background. I'm sure Rahina would like to come on and share a few things. There's Casey.
Yeah, so I think the first thing we'll need to do is give out some prizes.
Woo-hoo.
So I think that's Casey needs to tell us who won. And let's do the She Shoots t-shirt first.
Okay, our first winner is Gwen Van Keef. She's got her question too, so we'll get to it after we're done giving out our prizes.
Okay, sounds good. Congratulations. And Facebook means that Deneen will reach out to them, right?
Yeah, you betcha. And Casey's going to send me the names. So.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then we'll do the Canada First Ammo prize pack.
All right, so our Canada First prize pack is Paul Hutchinson.
Yay, congratulations.
Paul.
And also on Facebook, so Deneen will reach out.
Okay, perfect. And now that we gave out some prizes and people are happy, let's do the questions. So,
but we didn't ask Carlee for stickers. We were supposed to do.
Nobody loves stickers like the Canadian gun market.
Right?
Right?
We've gone other places and I'm like, oh, do you want a sticker? People are like, yeah. Whereas like anywhere, like match, any Canadian trade show, any Canadian event, people are like, you don't have like a pocket full of stickers? Like,
well,
come on, where's my stickers?
Stickers and patches.
Yep.
We literally have to increase our budget tenfold for stickers.
Yeah.
Anywhere else.
It's crazy. Yeah. And even at SHOT Show, the people who ask for stickers are all Canadians.
That's funny. All right, and another characteristic of a Canadian shooter is you're a sticker lover. Good to know.
Mhm.
So Casey, other than stickers, do we have any other questions?
Yes. Well, it was from Gwen, and she was asking, are you looking at other products in the future? So I know that you guys said that you couldn't say about some of them, but is there some that you can tell us about?
Well, we have a product that's getting announced next week on our socials, so stay tuned for that. It's not like a huge announcement, but it's something that I'm personally very excited about. So stay tuned for that. That's the most I can say.
Well, we have 5 products in production right now. We have
Yes.
5 in development, and then we have another 14 or so in kind of different concept stages. So it's been busy. It's been a very busy year. Honestly, I'm just trying to figure out. I mean, we got a couple of different binoculars that are coming out that are kind of just continuations of our product line. We've got other red dots and other concepts of kind of, I guess, more carbine mounted things that are in development right now. But realistically speaking, unfortunately, we can't talk about a lot of them. There is going to be, I guess, a version of our Fusion red dots that are going to be different footprints.
Yeah.
So because our current footprint is RMR, and so I think we're looking at other ones like RMSC that are a little bit more ubiquitous. So we try to capture those 2 major categories.
But before SHOT Show this week and this year, SHOT Show is mid-January. So before that, stay tuned to our socials because we are going to announce our new product set.
Perfect.
Exciting.
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think there's some Apex optics in my future. So
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I think that was it for questions. So I'll just quickly go through upcoming events. And we don't really have much happening right now. It's a summertime, so kind of chill for us. But this CUSF is always looking for volunteers. So if you're interested in volunteering for the CUSF, please send us an email at submissions@cusf.ca and let us know what area you would like to work on, or if you just want to help out in any way, we'll love to hear from you. Also, if you're a student at a Canadian university and your university doesn't already have a club, just send us an email at submissions@cusf.ca. Sorry, I can't speak today. And we can help you with getting a club get started. So that's it for me. And I know, Kelly, you have tons of maple seed that you just want to tell us about.
Sure. Yeah, we have a lot that's going to be taking place over the next couple of months. One specific one that I do want to mention is the one that's on September 7th. That's going to be happening at Blue Mountains, or it's Blue Ridge Sportsman's Club in Blue Mountains, Ontario, Collingwood. It's a ladies' day. We have some spots that are available. So if you know of any ladies who would like to come out and learn to actually the fundamentals of shooting, come on out to Project Maple Seed event that's happening there. I'm going to also be traveling across the country, but I'm going to be heading out to I'll be heading out to Alberta. So, and I hope to see Deneen as well at some point. We're going to be doing a ladies' day at Sherwood Park. And we're going to be doing a maple seed there. So it's going to be great to see some of our shooters out in Alberta. I'm excited about it. But yeah, if you are looking for a Project Maple Seed event, go onto our website, I think it's catching.
Yes.
MapleSeedRifleman.com. Check that out. We have events that are happening all across the country. And we're in full swing right now. I just got back from 2 events this past weekend, so I do think my brain's all over the place right now. So let's turn it over to Dean.
All right. Well, instead of talking about events, what I want to do is actually let everybody that's listening or watching in the near future know that that She Shoots is looking for good ideas for good speakers for good topics, because we're already going to be planning next year. What season is it going to be?
Season 4.
I can't believe it. We're right alongside with Apex. 4 years of this.
Congratulations. One of my 3 team members would know. So season 4, and we look for people in the careers. We look for people in the business. We look for professional shooters. We go on to the hunting and the outdoorsman side of things. So we really look for that, and we would like some new and creative ideas and some young folks too. It would be really great to have some young shooters, young hunters, and young outdoorsmen and women to come and join us on She Shoots in season 4. So that's my shout out this time.
Yeah, that's a good shout out for sure. Yeah, so thank you. Okay, so with that, I'll go ahead and start wrapping it up. So thank you, everyone. And I'll also thank our sponsors. Thank you to Cabela's Canada Outdoor Fun, Savage Arms, Breda, Vortex, and Canada First Ammo. If you like today's episode, please leave us a like and follow us so you don't miss out on any of our episodes. You can watch us on YouTube and Facebook, or you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. If you liked our message and would like to learn more about our programs, check out our websites at cusaf.ca, ladyguns.ca, and mapleseedrifleman.com. To support us and get some additional perks, check out our membership programs. Thank you all for tuning into the She Shoots podcast, season 3, episode 31, all about the optics. Make sure to join us on September 10th for the next episode of the She Shoot podcast at our regular time, 5 p.m. PST, 6 p.m. MST, 8 p.m. EST. You know the drill. That's a mouthful. And keep an eye on our social media pages for the next episode announcement. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
And thank you for coming on, you guys.
Thanks for having us.